Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff and welcome to part 2 of our build of the MPC 22-inch Eagle, and we're going to get stuck into the build here. So we've got some images of the model here and it looks super impressive. The model was based on the original 22-inch set model, which was the smaller of the two Eagle models that they used. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I still haven't 100% decided whether I'm using standard pod or rescue pod, which is the one with the red stripes. We will see, but you see this one more often, and that's my gut feel is that's the way we're going to go. Okay, so it's a fairly simple kit. Whilst it's got over 300 parts, there's a lot of repetition. So let me just very quickly show you that, because then you're going to understand why I'm going to build it the way I'm going to build it. We've got 2 of these sprues. We've got 2 of these sprues. We've got 2 of these sprues. 2 of these sprues. 2 of these. 4 of these, 4 of these. In fact, there's only 3 sprues that are individual, and one of those I think is actually a part in its own right, as is this. Then we've got some 2 sprues of plastic clear parts which are also duplicate, and a couple of screws and springs. So tons and tons of duplication, and one single big, difficult to work with, fold out sheet that's massive. So for me, the way of working here is to do not the suggested flow, but to do all the duplicated bits and get them built up and reduce all the parts as quickly as possible. So rather than starting at step 1 and building the command module, which is, you know, that's the sexy bit of the kit, we're not going to do that. We're going to build the shoulders first, which are these things here, these big pods. We're going to get them built up. We're going to build these up. These are the 2 parts which end up inside the frame. So if I flip this over, you can see that's them there. So we've got those, we've got the frame to build. They're going to use up lots and lots of parts. So what I'm thinking is we're going to build this up first, because it's a big large piece. The 4 big pods, so we can mark them up, put them to one side, build the frame, then build the engine and the command module last. By doing that, we reduce the part count a bit more quickly. We get the big stuff out of the way, that can go into storage, and we get straight into the kit a bit more directly. If we do what the instructions want us to do and start with the command module, then first thing we're doing is a lot of painting of this, and there's absolutely no point doing that. I don't want to do painting until I've got lots of things built up. Now, even though the colours in this are completely different to the exterior, I've also got some aftermarket figures that are going to go in at this point, and they need painting. So let's do all the painting at the back end and as much building as we can at the front end. So, talking of aftermarket, let's just have a look at that as well. Now, this kit was gifted to me by someone who I believe is no longer with us. And what happened was she passed me the kit. I decided to have a look at upgrade parts, and I found a set of paint masks, vinyl paint masks. So I bought the vinyl paint masks, and what we've got is lots and lots of sheets of paint masks that allow us to do lots of different versions of the kit. It means we can paint the black on the command module, we can paint the red stripes if that's the way we want to go. You know, there's paint templates for everything, so we can paint the black, mask it off, paint the white, so on and so forth. We've got all of that stuff there, including some of the modulation colours and things that you see on there. So I bought that. I thought that was great value. After I'd purchased this, the lady that gifted me the kit, she said, "Oh, I forgot to send you something," and she sent me this, which is a lot of aftermarket decals. So the kit comes with a small sheet of decals, but what she sent me was all sorts of decals needed for all the different versions of the 22-inch that you can get. So including the modulation and stuff, so all the modulation parts, and they're done really well. It's a lovely huge set of decals. Yeah, tons of them. So what I've decided I'm going to do is a combination of both. Where I'm doing hard colours, I'm going to do paint masks. Where I'm got things like the complex modulations, where you've got fading and stuff like that, I might as well use the decals. It will be quicker, it will be simpler, and it'll be a more standard approach. So that's how I'm going to tackle that. We've also got, as I mentioned, some aftermarket figures. So from Cosmic Scale Models, I actually picked these up in Telford. So we've got 3 figures, 2 pilots and 1 stood up person. They're better than the figures supplied in the kits. They've not got the helmets on, which was the more usual way of them flying, whereas the kit ones have the helmets on, and these also have decals for this guy for his suit equipment. So yeah, all in all, we've got everything we need. I've been asked, am I going to put lights in it? The answer is no. The only place you'd put a light is the command module. You'd have to then run a wire through the pod and have a battery pack in the pod, and then you've got a modifier for a battery. Where I'm planning to display it, it's not worth doing, so I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the nose detachable, so I can take the nose off and look inside anytime I like. Okay, that all said, let's get going with the pod. Actually, before we get stuck in, I should also say the paint system we're going to be using is Kaleido, which is the new paint system from Gallery. I'm going to be using a combination of white and off-white onto black primer in the main, and we're going to use their paints from their metallic range for doing various different parts, metallic parts of the build. So that's the paint system we're going to be using, and we're going to be giving it a good push through the system and giving it a good workout. So I have experimented with these paints, but it's the first time I've used them on a project. So that will be fun. I actually have to order some more white because I don't think those 2 bottles will be enough. this huge pile of plastic is what I need to build the fairly simple box-like pod. So you can see how we're massively reducing the contents of the box already, and that's going to give me a load of space in there, which will be easier because it's absolutely rammed at the moment. So just going to put those to one side for a moment. We're going to be cutting these up and cleaning them up in a sec. We've got quite a few small parts. What I've discovered from this step is that parts are all over the place. These have all come off different sprues. You can see they're even different colours. None of these parts, I think maybe those were on 2 different sprues, but they're attached. All of these parts have come off different sprues, which is bizarre, but that's how they've done it. Another thing that's bizarre is for these parts here, we've got clear parts. So I don't know whether they've mistakenly thought these are windows or what, but actually they're solar panels and they should be black. So yeah, not quite sure why they're doing in clear, but clear they have. Right, this should be a fairly simple construction. It depends on the cleanup. So I'm going to do it as per the instructions, and we start with the base plate. So let's remove the base plate. Now the sprue plastic is really thick, so I'm using my old nippers, not my good quality new nippers, to remove these parts, because I mean it's just bonkers how thick the sprue gates are. So we'll take that off first, and we'll just trim them away. There we go. So I mean, this is a fairly simple part really. So we can just get in with a nice flat sanding stick on that. So I'm going to go 400 I think, and we'll just smooth that off. Let's get those out of the way a bit. Well, that was nice and easy. The next parts are these runners, and these are we're gonna sit the front and back bulkheads in with this. So again, we'll just cut through the sprue, and then carefully trim as close as we dare. And then sand that back. Yeah, that's good. Make sure it's nice and square, and then we've got this in the middle. Okay, and we can do a test fit of that then. So this little step needs to face up. I'm guessing that's the base plate so that the ejector pins are on the inside. That would make sense. Okay. That would appear to be... Ah, okay. Fits in that way. Well, that's not very positive in any strength of the imagination. So I'm going to want to clean up the end pieces. But I've just noticed we've got some ejector pin plastic protruding, so we need to sand that down. I think the idea here is to clear up the parts and then test fit everything. So I'm going to clean up the other one of these, you don't need to see that, and then I'm going to jump from step 27 to step 28 and do the sides. So I'm going to get those parts up and we'll clean up a couple of them together so you can get a feel for it, and then we'll test fit everything and glue it in. So as I'm cleaning up these parts, I've discovered that this part fits really, really snugly and tightly into this part that it's supposed to mate into. And this fits really nice and snugly into this part here, like that. So rather than trying to randomly line this up, which is how they have you do it in the instructions, and I hope you've got it lined up and straight and all that, it's actually easier to build your bulkheads up and then just glue your plate in, and that will keep everything straight and in place. So that's how I'm going to do it. I'll show you when I come to do it. We'll glue these in together, then put that in, and then we'll put this last piece in with the bulkhead already attached. So the cleanup on this is really easy because we're dealing with flat surfaces, so it's just trim off at the angle. I'm using a 400 throughout. If it's not going to be seen, or it's a very thick piece like this one here, then I'm going in with a 150 just to reduce it down. We're going to have a part sitting on here anyway, so that just helps, and then I can always finish it with the 400 if I feel the need. So I'm going to clean these parts up. You don't need to see me cleaning this lot up, and then I'll come back to you when we're ready to assemble. Okay, time to get this built. We're going to start by putting in the bulkhead into this bottom piece, and what you've got here is you've got a little piece here that's going behind, and then these pieces are going into these slots, and it's holding it really tightly. I mean, I can't shake that off, so that's really good. I'm just not sure about the cleanup on that. I just want, let me, I'm trying to avoid filling as much as I can, but I don't know how easy that's going to be with this kit. So that goes in. It's a little, needs holding in place a little bit, so I'm going to put the glue in from the back. We're using Plastic Magic from Deluxe Materials. It's good strong glue. It'll deal with ABS plastics, so it's quite happy with this quite hard plastic that we've got here. Okay, while that's drying, we can do the other one. Okay, that's good. That's our two side bulkheads. And then what we're going to do is we're going to glue that into one end. And so we're going to sit in this bit, we're going to sit in this bit. So I'm just going to test fit that's okay. And glue in at the location tabs. The little joint is in contact at the top and at the bottom there. And now we can put the base in to hold everything square. So I'm running glue the full length down the inside of the full length of that side, and then I'm going to glue the end piece in as well. So that should be all holding together a little bit now. Now we can put the other side bulkhead in. So once again, glue the tabs in, just make sure that's in tight. Yeah. And again, going to run the glue the full length down the inside, and then we can put the end piece on the top there. Like so. That's all fitted in. Turn that way down so it's just resting on my desk. Gluing the location tabs, and then gluing the strip along the floor. Okay, that is the pod fairly quickly knocked together, and that's an easier way of building it than is shown in the instructions, to be honest. And we're starting to get a feel for the size of this thing. It's not a small model when it's done. That's all nice and tight. I'm just going to go around and put a bit of glue in those edges there, make sure that's capillaried down nice and that I'm happy it's all tight, which I genuinely am. Right, we can put that to one side, let that start drying, and deal with these parts here. So this is going to be our roof section that's going to plop on there, and then these are going on here, but we've got some items to build up and we've got some clean up to do. So I'm going to start by cleaning up these big pieces, and then we can clean up the smaller pieces and glue them into place as we go, I think is the best way forward. So clean them up, glue it on, get the next part, clean it up, glue it on. I think that's the way I'm going to do that. So some fairly chunky sprue gates on this model, I've got to say. Okay, put that to one side because we don't need that just for the minute. Okay, right, I'm going to clean up this and then I'll come back to you. Right, we've got these little grey parts that go in here. You can't put them in the wrong way because we've got a shaped peg. Got a little D-shaped peg, so that ensures that you get that orientated correctly. So they face into each other by the looks of it. Like that, and actually the fit is really tight again. It's a really good fit. Given the brand, I'm a little bit surprised, but it is a newer kit. I suppose it's 10 years old now, but I'm used to their cars, and the fit on the cars is not quite as good as this. So yeah, that looks okay. So the glazing, I'm just breaking them off, and it's such a wide sprue on here, and they've put just one sprue gate in to make sure it's nice and clear. I guess it's if people want to put an interior in, but like I say, these should be black. So the Then we're going to just trim these ejector pins off. Now you might be thinking, don't worry about the inside of it so much, but actually it's going into a raised grid, and if you don't clean it up, it ain't going to fit in very well, and then you're going to have a gap. So we can go with quite a coarse, this is a 100 grit, and just take down not just the 3 sides but the 4th one that didn't have a sprue gate on, and make sure that it's not in the way. Test fit, and if you're happy you can glue that in. Don't worry about fogging, although if you are careful it won't fog, but it doesn't matter because we're going to paint over it in black and make them a nice gloss black, which will contrast nicely with the white, or possibly the white and red. I still don't know. What I'm doing is making sure there's plenty of adhesive in there, it's sat properly, because when I come to mask it potentially, I don't want to be popping that out. That's happened recently to me. So that then just plops on there. The fit of that is really nice. So we've done steps 27 through to 29. So we can cross those off, and then we need to find where the next step is, which is there. Okay, so next step is fitting those and this roof section. Okay, that doesn't look like it's going to be a major problem. So I just want to, there's a little bit of flash on that, so we're just going to skim it with the 400. It's not very strong, I've got to say. Once glued in, it should be okay though. Okay, let's glue this part in first. So I'm going to run adhesive on this bottom lip, and then I'm going to do it a second time so I know that it's fully flooded. And then we can go in from the outside. Looks like we may have some filling to do. There's no gaps along there though, so that's good. That would be a pain to sort. There's 3 little location points on the inside. These bits here, which locate into these bits here, so I'm just putting some glue in those as well. And then into the corners. It might be a bit difficult to do that on the second one, I don't know. Right, that's on, that's looking good. Just noticed I need to clean up that, I've missed that somehow. I probably need to put some more glue on here, it'll have evaporated. Okay. I'm just about getting there we go. So an interesting fact about the pod with the red stripes is that you see it in the TV show with the red stripe going into this recess around the window, and then in other episodes you see it and the window recess is the body colour, the white rather than the red. So if I do decide to go red, whichever way I decide to do it is okay. So that's because different models being used, done slightly differently. Okay, I think we want something a little bit more substantial for putting this roof section in. So I'm going to use some precision plastic glue. Put plenty on. It's not the flattest of surfaces. And then I'm going to run it the full length of both of these. Okay, and then we can carefully drop that into place. Make sure it's nice and aligned. There we go, that is in. Just going to put that on top just to weight it down. It's slightly bowing up in the middle and I don't want it to do that, so just going to weight that for a moment while I clean up the parts that are going to go underneath. Hi, hope you're enjoying the video. I put a lot of effort into making these videos, putting them together, recording them, editing. It takes up so much time. I would really love it if you could just hit that like button for me. It will take you a fraction of a second and it costs you nothing, and it means so much to me and the channel and will help other people who might enjoy this video find it. You done it? Thank you. This is probably the most difficult part we're going to have to clean up. It's the grill that goes underneath, and we've got seam all the way along, but there's also been attached at some point to some form of sprue. So I've got a 220 grit here on a sanding sponge, and we're just going to run that along. It's quite a heavy seam, so I want to reduce that down as quickly as I can, and then we can go back over it with a 400. These edges are the most important because that's the bit you're going to see the most. And then this is a 1000. Now there's quite a bit of seam on the inside of all of these, so there's different ways of removing that. I have dedicated seam scrapers, but the top edge of your knife, not the sharp bit, will nicely scrape away any seam. It's just a bit time consuming, so put a film on. So that's what I'm going to do with all of this, and then just make sure we've got a nice squared off end on the pipe, on the corners, on the ends there, which won't be quite as visible, but you never know. So yeah, quite a bit of clean up to do on this. So I'll crack on and come back to you when all the little parts are cleaned up, the glue is dried on the roof, and we're ready to finish the construction of the pod. Okay, I've got all the parts cleaned up that are going on the underside of the pod for now. There are a couple of other items to go on later on. We've got thrust bells and we've got feet for when it's left to stand on it on its own. But they're different colours. Everything that we're about to put on here is going to end up in the white, off-white that we're doing. So I have ordered more paint for that. So that'll be this completed when we finish those parts. I want to paint the other parts that are different colours separately, so we'll look at that later. So let's get all these parts on. I'm going to pay attention carefully to the instructions here. So we should be able to put them into place and then glue them thereafter. So you just got to check things like orientation, that they're facing the right way. And that just looks like a nail, doesn't it? There's two parts here. The sizes are different to the opening, so that helps you get the right one. Although I've got to say, I don't see any difference in the actual part, so quite why they did that I don't know. But using the D-shaped pins does mean that they end up in the right direction, although you can see there is quite a bit of play in that, so you do need to sort of position it as you want. Then we've got these funny little objects going in. And then we've got two tanks. Looks like two halves of some form of fuel tank off a model they used. And then finally in the middle we've got these. Just make sure I get them facing in the right direction. So they're gone like that. Right, I'm going to glue all of those in now. So we're just going to capillary those in. These loose ones I'm just holding into place while I put the glue on to make sure that the brush doesn't move it. Is that straight? That looks straight. So, and then we've got these things at last. Now I thought these were some form of jets or something, but they've got them facing in the same direction, so maybe they're not. But they do look like thruster jets, don't they? Right. Now we've got this grid to go on, which goes into place like so. I don't know whether we've got different size holes. Oh, well, that fits in quite tightly, doesn't it? So I think we can just glue it in those pegs there. So we'll use some thicker glue for that. There we go. Okay, and then what I will do, just to be belt and braces, is I'll run some under the two ends there. Okay, so that completes, well, it completes our pod for now. It's huge, but it is the main, you know, if you're thinking about the length of this, we've got two sections here, and then you've got the engine bells this side and the command module that side. So, you know, it's probably all in all twice the length, or a bit shorter than twice the length of this, the whole thing. So that's the mod done. Let's have a look at the instructions and see what we're going to tackle next. So I'm thinking building up the shoulder pods makes the next sense. So that is building this up, and then we've got an orientation chart here. So my thought is this bit goes into the model and doesn't get seen, so we can label it there. So there are different positions for the same parts depending on where they're going to be on the shoulder, so we need to pay attention to that. So I'll get the parts out, and then we can see how that comes together. There we go. I think that will end up being a separate sub-assembly. So how we're going to do that, I don't know. We'll look at that later maybe. I don't think we're going to install it now though. I do need to look at how that works in relationship to these though. I'm going to build these pods up one at a time. It's going to break the monotony of all the cleanup that's needed. And it means that I can focus on the correct orientation of the parts. So I'm going to do the front starboard first. So I need that as the upper. We need that to go on the inside, goes in here I think, like so. That's the bit that's going to end up going mounting the part, so we can write on there, so that's cool. We need one of those, one of those, one of those, and then we need, I think it's that one, should go under there, one of those, and we're doing the front. It says part Q39 on front pods only, so I do want one of those, and I also want one of those. So that's all of our parts for this. So it's the same, pretty much the same parts. There's one thing I'm not understanding though. It says remove pin from H47 and H48 used on the rear pods. So H47 and H48 is this, and it says remove pin. So that can be the only pin it's thinking about, but that's a location pin for that. And why would it make any difference if that was a rear pod? I don't understand what it's saying to me. Remove pin from H47 and H48 used on the rear pods. I have no idea what that's telling me. Okay. Right. I've got you. Right. So this part, Q39, it's not clear. It mounts on this little peg here. So they're calling that a pin. Because you've not got it on the rear pods, you need to sand that off. Got you. Ooh, got there in the end, didn't we? Though it's not my fault, they're not being clear. Right, okay, so I think, as always with my cleanup, I trim as much as I can first. I was always told to cut the sprues up away and then sand down, and I generally do that. But where you've got a flat surface, with today's modern nippers, which we didn't have in the 70s and 80s, I mean, I used to use a penknife, and then I used nail clippers, like nail scissors. So it all depends on what you're cutting, but some parts, when they've got a flat edge, you can trim those down now with modern single bladed nippers. I'd never do it with a double bladed nipper. They're just not good enough, because these don't leave a pinch behind, so I can get fairly close just trimming those parts like that, and then I still finish it with a sanding stick, of course, but it's reducing that sanding time and the sanding mess and so on. 4 of these to build, and they're whopping huge things. What I have noticed as I'm cleaning these up, let me just put my nippers down, is we do have sink there and there. We've got great big chunky plastic behind it, so it's not a surprise. It's the only sink I can see. It's the first sink we've come across, so I'm not seeing any sink anywhere else. When we prime this, we may end up seeing some more, but yeah. So I think my thought process is start with the bottom piece, clean that up, and then when we build, clean up the other parts, we can dry fit and build the whole thing up before we glue it together. So some of the sprue gate is on this inside lip here, so we're going to have to just cut that away because I can't get in there to sand that particularly well. So that's a bit of a unnecessary pain. That's going to be a joining point, so it's going to need to be totally smooth. But we've only got 3, so the sprue gate is left on the inside of the lip, which is a real pain in the butt. But as you can see, not a big job to sort out. Cut away most of it, and I'm using fairly coarse 220 here just to quickly take that back. So that is the cleanup for that part. Right, so as I look at that, we want one of the smaller ones facing me, so this should go into here like that, looking like the fit's going to be okay. So I'm using 400 grit as a rule where I'm wanting a nice finish. So I think the Eagle is one of the all-time iconic spacecraft. But when you think about Space 1999, there is some iconic things other than just the spaceship, like the Comlock. The Comlock was brilliant when I was watching that as a kid. And it's not a clever special effect. It's a 1.5 inch TV screen. So it was a Panasonic TR 001. So it was an actual TV screen, which they could only get in black and white. So someone would be talking to a camera and that image would be projected onto that TV screen. But if you notice when they're using the comm locks in the program, they always hold them at the same angle when they're in shot on TV. When you're seeing someone talking on that TV, on the comm lock, it's always held at the same angle, and that's so that the power cables and stuff that are actually needed hanging out of the back you can't see. So the ones that are handheld and you don't see cables coming from and they're clipped on belts and stuff, they're just props. But the actual ones with the TVs on, you've got cables coming out of the back, you just never see them. So you know, that was ingenious, and you think now we've got that on our phones and stuff. You know, makes you wonder, doesn't it? You know, I imagine things like the buttons came off a calculator or something like that when they were building it. But they had to build the working ones first, and then the rest of the props would have come after that. So yeah, fascinating. I do love the comm lock. It's another iconic part of the program. Right, all my parts are cleaned up. Let's see how this comes together. We're going to start by putting this piece into the top piece, and I want to make sure that this all holds together really nice and strong. So I'm using my thicker viscosity glue for this job. We've got plenty of surface area here, so that should be fine. So this goes in like that, line those pins up, and I'm just going to clamp that . Yeah, 2 clamps should be enough, and then I can run some plastic magic into the pin points. And also where it's making contact at this end where we've not put any adhesive yet. There we go, that should be more than sufficient for that job. So we can put that to one side for a sec, let that just cure. And now we can start building these parts. So I'm using my little guide in the instructions to make sure we get this the right way. The easiest thing to do is put one of these side edges in. I just had a clip fly off, so I'll just put another one on. Put one of these side edges in and put those in because they've got little lugs to hold it in place, but it flaps around, whereas this has got the shape to, you know, just let it sit there on its own. So I'm going to put this one in first, so we just locate it, hold that into place. We can use the plastic magic for this job. Run it into the lugs and all the way along that edge there, and what it'll do is it'll go down and also underneath a little bit as well. That glue will travel further than you imagine, so I'll just hold that there for a sec. We'll have a look at it from the outside. That seems to be okay. We are going to have to do some surface prep on this. There we go, that's okay. Right, so I can now put this end piece in. So just check we've got it the right way. We need that to my left. Or is it better to put this in first? So maybe we put this in first, then it's easier for me to get in and glue.
Okay. Oh, it's Airfix just telling me it's the last day of the members double discount. Right, that's gone in. Okay, the part slightly sticks out, so you've got a bit of a lip. We're gonna have to deal with that because we don't have a lip on this side, so it looks odd. So I'll have to bring this surface up to meet, I think. Let's see how these go in. Right, so let's just test fit that before we put the sides in. Make sure that that's all square. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's looking cool. That's looking very cool. Right. That seems to actually be holding itself down now, so we'll be fine with that in a minute. So yeah, let's put this in now. Wasn't sure if I was going to have to reinforce the inside of these, but I think probably not. Okay, and then there is obviously a difference in the detail, so you have to make sure you've got that orientated correctly. We don't want to put something in facing the wrong way, because someone will spot it and then tell me. Okay, I think we can put the top piece on now, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the thicker glue again, which will give me a little bit of a wriggle time, just in case we need to manipulate it a little bit. Okay, that should be plenty. Yeah. Okay, we are going to have some tiny gaps to fill, I think, by the looks at it. That's okay. Right, we can get these other bits on now. So we have this to fit on here, so we can just put a spot of glue on the inside there. Oh, didn't test fit that, did I? Oh, I see what the problem is. Right. So It's been moulded with the hole going that way, and as you put these pins in, the pins are going that way. So that's not going to fit, so I need to drill that way.